Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome back to Venting with Us. Yes, another week. We're already in October. I can't believe that October is kind of almost over already. It's like Halloween's going to be here before you know it. And though it's still warm outside, I'm not complaining. We had a few days where it was cold, but today on a Saturday, it's actually nice and warm. I'm in a thin little sweater from H&M, so it's now becoming my new obsession store. Just a little bit, not too much. I wouldn't say that's the first place I'm going to go. So I hope everybody had a great week, and I hope that it was productive and positive. And if not, you know what? We got next week. It's okay. So if you were here with me last week, I said for the month of October, we're going to do nothing but serial killers. And I think I kind of jinxed myself because now every time I go on either Netflix or if I go on to Peacock or Hulu, there is some type of serial killer documentary going out there, and I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? I put it out there in the world, in the atmosphere. But you know what? I keep saying I want to win the lotto. So hello, today is Saturday, so you never know. I could play some numbers. Let me win. So that way I could never ever have to worry about anything. Feels kind of good. you know, I think that's everybody's dream to win the lotto. They have all these different shows too. What is that, the $1 million lottery home TV show and whatnot. So I want to be one of those people. And I keep saying when I come back in my next life, please, Lord Jesus, please, I just want to come back rich. Okay. So, this was good. This was a great one. It taught me a lot, but whew, this one is it's a lot. Let me come back with a little bit of an easier life. Okay. But to start everything off, we are going to get into the famous or the notorious John Wayne Gacy, the American serial psycho clown is like what we know him as, that big mask. Well, he didn't wear a mask. He put his painting and whatnot. It was, he did the paint and he did all the things on his face. I every time I see that picture, I get scared. It's like, it's crazy. And this is why I'm like, with clown houses and clowns and all of that stuff, because it just reminds me of him a little bit. So, so let's deep dive into who John Wayne Gacy was. And at the end of this, and what I also decided what I was going to do, to put a little spin to it. If you guys did not know this, every person that's convicted and sentenced to death, they get their last final meal. It could be whatever they want. So I am going to share every single meal that each person that I do on the show, what their final meal was. So I hope you guys are going to be very intrigued. So to start off, let's jump into John Wayne Gacy. So John Wayne Gacy was an American serial killer / sex offender who raped, tortured, and murdered at least 33 young men and boys between 1972 throughout 1978 in Illinois, Chicago. Damn, Chicago, just keep on going. There's a lot of killers in Chicago. If you notice on every episode, when I talk about somebody, it has to do with Chicago. Ooh. So he became known as the Killer Clown. Because of the public performances that he used to do throughout all of the town. You would be very, very shocked by the end of this that John Wayne Gacy was very popular in his town. He was known. And I have to laugh about this because I always say this on every single serial killer or somebody that's committed a murder. They're always known as this great person with this great personality that, the neighbors would say, he would never do such a thing. I was shocked. Yeah, not me, because see, this is the problem, you just can't trust anybody, especially when they're nice and they want to be involved in everything. Your antennas have to be up a little bit because I don't know what's going on here. It's starting to be a little trait. But Gacy committed all of the known murders inside his ranch style house. Typically, he would lure the victims in to his house and dupe them into donating handcuffs or on the I should say that he would trick them more into because he would put this persona on as a clown. He would tell them, okay, I bet you I can get you out of the handcuffs, and then he would slap the handcuffs on and say, oh, okay, now here's the magic trick. But instead of doing the magic trick, he would rape and torture them before telling his victims, before killing his victims. He would also either I'm going to say it this, I'm telling you, there's always going to be one word that I cannot say: asphyxiation and strangulations with a garrote. Now, for those people that do not know what a garrote is, it's basically, it could be a chain, a rope that's used to strangle the victims. 26 of the victims were buried in the crawl space of his home, and 3 of the victims were buried elsewhere on his property. 4 were discarded in the Des Plaines River, which is in Chicago. Gacy was brought to trial on February 6, 1980, and was charged with the 33 murders. He was tried at Cook County Criminal Court. At the request of his defense counsel, Gacy spent over 300 hours with doctors at a correction center. He did go under different variety of psychological tests to determine whether or not he was mentally competent to stand trial. Gacy attempted, being such a narcissist, to convince the doctors that he had multiple personalities, which is probably why it's so hard now to convict somebody with multiple personalities, because you have this psycho killer trying to pretend that they have multiple personalities. I think it's the go-to excuse. I have multiple personalities. Let me get out of here. Or also known as DID. Gacy claimed he had 4 personalities: the hardworking person, the civic-minded contractor, the clown, and the active politician. Now, he did name the politician Jack Hanley, whom he also referred as Bad Jack. What is wrong with you? That's, listen, this is a great way of saying, if you do something wrong, Bad Jack did it. It gets a little crazy. When Gacy had confessed to the police, he claimed to be relying on the crimes of Jack, who detested homosexuality and viewed male prostitutes as weak, stupid, and degraded scum. His lawyers opted to have Gacy plead not guilty by reason of insanity. One of Gacy's defense attorneys, Robert Moda, remarked the insanity defense had been looked upon as an escape or a defense of a last result. The defense of insanity is valid, and it is the only defense that they could use there, because that is where the truth lies. They presented Gacy as having a Jekyll and Hyde type of character. The defense produced several psychiatric, I can never say that word, psychiatric experts who had examined Gacy, and 3 of the psychiatrists did testify, and stated that they had found him to be a paranoid schizophrenic with multiple personalities. But here's the thing, guys. The prosecutors were not having this. They came back at them and they said, no, they argue that Gacy was sane and had full control of his own actions. They were able to produce witnesses to testify his predetermination and the efforts he took to escape detection of every act he committed. Gacy was found guilty of the 33 murders, and at the time of his conviction for the 33 murders, he had become the first person in U.S. history to be convicted of a full amount of murders, and he was sentenced to death for each of the murders. So he was the first to accomplish that. Now, Gacy always had this persona that he wanted to be famous. Damn you, Gacy. He wanted to be famous. He wanted to be well liked. He had a very narcissistic personality. Everybody in the town that was associated with him always knew him to be kind and helpful. He was a part of a Democratic precinct. He was known as the Democratic precinct captain, which that is basically someone who takes care of people in the town. So if you have a flat tire, he would come and help you. If you needed, if something was broken, he would come and help you, to repair it. Whatever it was, he was in charge of this, and this is what he did. So it is a little bit it's a little bit crazy that they would give someone like this, such high power. But, again, everybody in the town said the same thing. Oh, well, he's such a great guy. He's we've never seen this malicious side of him, so how could he be able to do something like this? It doesn't make sense. So Netflix has come out with the John Wayne Gacy story. It is an 8-part series. You guys can watch it. Of course, I've watched it. And you guys know that I did watch the documentary. This is the great thing about this story, and the reason why I wanted to do John Wayne Gacy this episode is because just so that way people have the clarification and they do not get confused. This story that's out right now on Netflix is the story of John Priest. He was a stock boy who went missing in 1978. This is actually the victim that led up to John Wayne Gacy getting caught and captured for all of these murders. I like that they did the last story and not dragged you into the whole beginning of it. Because it really deep dives more into what happened at the trial, what happened with the case, and what led him, to become this deranged person. If you guys do want to watch the documentary based off the series, there is also on Netflix, you can watch, it's called John Wayne Gacy, the tapes that have not been heard. You can watch it. It's 3 parts. It's so good. I also watched it. You know me, I always have to deep dive into my little thing to compare notes. There was a little bit of things that are not accurate in the series, but I will have to say I'm very happy because they did speak a lot. I did, like, for instance, just one thing that I was not fully aware of was that John Wayne Gacy, he was married 2 times. One marriage, he had 2 kids, 2 natural kids, because he really did want to be a father. He had a son named Michael, and he had a daughter named Christine. They were in the ages between of 6 and 4. That marriage, he ended up getting a divorce because he was a part of this social group in Iowa called the Gen Zs, and he ended up sexually molesting a 15-year-old there. And his wife ended up going to the prison. He ended up getting 15 years in prison for sodomy. And his wife went to the prison and she asked him for a divorce. At that time, he was just living a regular life, and he was helping his father-in-law with his business. His father-in-law actually owned several chains of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Let me tell you something. I was so disappointed in the KFC at that point. I was like, oh no, not KFC. I do still like a little bit of KFC, though I haven't had KFC in a really long time. But I was like, no, not KFC. So, but yes, he was managing the franchise, and him and the father-in-law couldn't get along. They were very, very at heads, that how you say it. They were, they were always arguing. And John, in the not the series, not the 8-part, the actual documentary, he stated, he's like, that his father-in-law reminded him of his father, because his father would always tell him, you're not going to be good at anything, you're a loser, you can't ever get things right, so it installed this drive in Gacy to always try to show his dad that he could be these things. And it gave him, everything that he did in life was always to prove a point that he could do these things. He could be this person, to kind of show his, to just have his dad just inspire, to be happy for him, not inspire, but to be happy for him. But that never did happen, unfortunately. John was sentenced for the sexual assault on the 15-year-old for 15 years. And while he was in prison, his father ended up dying. So he never had that chance to actually, prove that point to his dad. While he was in prison, a lot of the inmates, and again, you can watch this in the documentary, they said he had so much control. He was very well liked. He became like head chef in the prison. He refused to allow anybody to abuse him and to let them have this control. And that if you cross John, that you be prepared that you would probably have rat feces inside your food. So you always knew to make sure that you were nice to John. So I don't know about you, but yeah, I would definitely be nice to John too. I don't want rat feces in there. No. See, you can never trust a chef. Not all chefs are good. That's why we have so many issues in the restaurant business. Oh my God. But after he was released from jail, that's when John Wayne Gacy ended up moving over to Chicago, Illinois, and he opened up his own business called PDM, which stands for Painting, Decorating, and Maintenance Contracting. That was in Northwood Park, Illinois. He was also, like, as I stated before, he was a Democratic precinct captain for the Cook County Democrat organization. And in December 12th, 1978, missing report was filed for Rob Priest. The police went back to the department store where the young boy was working to conduct a full investigation, and learned that Gacy was the last person to have seen him. Gacy was apparently in the store at that time to get an estimate on a job that he was going to be doing for the owner. And when the police went back and they looked at John Wayne Gacy's history to see if he had any records or if he had anything on him, that's when they found the charges for the sodomy in Iowa. And as it goes, if you have any criminal background, you're going to be bumped from the bottom of the list all the way to the top of the list. And that set off a huge alarm. Lieutenant Kozenzak, who was the main person that took over the case, went to his house to discuss the disappearance of Rob. And Gacy pretended that a family member had lied at this point. And the lieutenant was saying, I need you to, I need a report, I need this. And Gacy was like, oh, well, you know what? I'm dealing with this. As soon as I'm done with getting the arrangements done, I promise you I will end up going to the police department. Gacy did not end up fulfilling those obligations. He ended up showing up at the police station around 3:00 in the morning, and he was filled from head to toe with mud. And he was asking everybody, "Where's the lieutenant?" The lieutenant had gone home at that time, and Gacy was like, "Okay, well, I'll be back in the morning." When he came back in the morning, that's when everything kind of started unfolding, because the lieutenant had stated, he's like, this story doesn't make sense. Give me your statement is not adding up. So what they ended up doing was he had the police tailgate him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just to get under Gacy's skin. Gacy, at this time, being the narcissist that he is, or that he was, he tried to play this cat and mouse game with the police. So he would go from one direction to another direction, or he was constantly driving so fast that he felt like he can outbeat the police, or he was slowed down. He would do things to kind of get into into their heads, and to see if that would work to get them, to back away. But the police were adamant that they were going to continue to follow Gacy, and they were going to, keep on to him until he would crack. By December 13th, 1978, Gacy went back to the police. He went back to the police station, and while he was being interviewed, the police went over to Gacy's house. They ended up getting a search warrant also. I should have said that before. They were able to find sex toys, books on gay boys, the books would be labeled "Gay Boys Must Die," high school. They would find different, high school class rings, and the police always stated that Gacy was very arrogant. He had a very narcissistic personality, and things that were set up in his house were very just not in a normal person's kind of house. There was a lot of clowns, pictures, figurines. There was a lot of things that, that just kind of set off red flags. Even though they said, listen, to each his own, you can do whatever you want in your home. Because I was thinking the same thing. I said, wait a minute, you can't judge somebody by their home and their designs or whatever. Not everybody's going to have the same taste. But just the way that he did certain things in the home was just very out of the norm. They also found a ticket. So back in those days, when you would go to, if you took pictures, you took it somewhere where they would, get the pictures ready for you. You would give them the ticket for it, and and the girl at the Clark store actually had put one of those tickets in Rob's jacket. When the police were searching Gacy's house, they found that ticket. So that linked Rob back over to Gacy's house. Gacy did try to state that the young lady had been lying and she was a compulsive liar, and this this really infumed her so, because she was like, I'm not a liar, I would never lie. And when they found that ticket, they knew, okay, well, she's telling the truth, because she described this ticket and she still had the stub, and gave the rest of the stub over to Rob before he had passed away. So that was a great clue right there. And she says, what I love about this is that in the documentary, in the series, she says, no, I'm not in the series, I'm sorry, in the documentary, she states, God does things for a reason. And I truly believe that was a sign from God to do something like that, because if that would have not happened, then this whole case would have never went down the way it did. And I truly believe that. I believe that a lot of things happen for a reason. I believe that, things are not a coincidence. Things are meant to happen in the way that they do. And at those moments, we don't understand why they happen like that. But, later on down, when everything does happen, you're like, oh my God, yeah. That happened for a reason. It's always kind of like, when you're running late to work or something, and you can't understand why, why everything is just like, you can't find your car keys, or you can't find your shoes, or, you wanted to wear an outfit that day, but then you ended up changing it, and you just have a delay in the day. Or some people wake up late, or their alarm clocks. I don't wake up with an alarm. My whole body system is like an alarm clock. But when things happen like that, you don't understand, and you feel like, oh my God, the stage just is getting away from me. They say that those things happen for a reason. They happen because it's preventing you to slow down for something, to prevent you from something bad that is supposed to happen. So that's why those things happen. So if you don't believe in any of that, I'm just leaving you with that yes, it can possibly happen. But while Gacy was at the police station, as the police were looking into Gacy's house, one of the cops had found the crawl space, and they were able to locate all the bodies in the house. And they found different parts of people's arms, legs, head, skulls, teeth, and all of that stuff. And that's when he was finally convicted of all the charges. So, what was Gacy's final meal? Okay, you guys are not going to believe this. So, Gacy ended up getting the lethal injection on May 9th of 1994. He actually did appeal his case several times before it was denied and finalized on May 9th of 1994. So his last meal, guys, was a bucket of KFC, French fries, a dozen fried shrimp, fresh strawberries, and a Diet Coke. That's what his final meal was. If you knew you were going to die tomorrow, what would be your final meal? I had thought about this for a little bit. If, God forbid, tomorrow was my time, which it won't be. A long way. I don't know what it would be. It better be something good, though. it either has to be pizza or at least a cooked meal. Because if I kick the bucket tomorrow and it's my last meal was like a can of Chef Boyardee, I would be a little bit pissed. So that cannot happen. Oh my God. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show today. I had so much fun doing this. Again, if you want to watch the documentary, you can watch the actual 3-part documentary. It's called Wayne Gacy. The Hidden Tapes. And if you want to watch the new series, it's the John Wayne Gacy story. And that's an 8-part series. I hope you guys watch both because both were so good. Next week, we're going to go into Eileen, the first female serial killer. I'm actually, this story is really not that terrible, but I'm going to give you my opinion next week on this because I'm a little bit conflicted on this, and I really would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. But I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm always excited to be here with you. Continue to spread the word and get those followers up. I hope again stay nice and cool. Have a great weekend. Drink some wine. Be careful with your neighbors. Have a great night, guys. And please, if you have any questions or any other things that you would like to ask, you can leave a comment. Okay, I'm gonna leave the comments open. Have a great day. This is true. I'm gonna be